Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Boykin, and I am here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I am joined this afternoon by my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, what's happening, man?
I don't know why I've heard you say that before, and today is especially funny. I'm doing fantastic. I'm in Sacramento, California, with nothing witty to throw in other than it's Sacramento, California, and it's Sacramento, California.
Concrete jungle. So over the last I'm gonna say week. There's been a new big dust up over YouTube censorship and whether or not and he is, but maybe not for this reason, whether or not Jimmy Dore's an asshole, or whether he's alt-right adjacent. Now it's something that I've seen leveled at him, or closet Trump supporter, because he called out the timing, the way it happened, who employs Carlos Maza, and ultimately what didn't happen to Steven Crowder as a result of this feud. Have you seen like a minute of that? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about here?
You know what? I'm going to use my wit, my charm, and my wonderful good looks to try to pass through this entire thing and throw in remarks when I see the opportunity.
Okay, so Steven Crowder has made a career out of picking on already marginalized people. It's what he does. He's a puffed up, bloated trust fund kid who thinks he's a comedian.
Got it.
And specifically a right wing comedian, which I don't know is I've found throughout the years that when people try to bring their extreme conservative attitudes to humor, it goes over like a fart in church. But there are people that really go in for second grade, third grade humor, and Crowder's got a fan base. He's got a fan base. He's got a bunch of subscribers. He's worth like $4 million right now. And he uses his platform largely to pick on marginalized people. One of those people was Carlos Maza, who works for Vox. He goes, his Twitter handle is @gaywonk. He wears his sexuality honestly. He was very proud of it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Steven Crowder made fun of him for that. It got to the point to where Maza was saying this is targeted harassment. This violates YouTube's terms of service. He didn't come out and blame Crowder for doxing him, but in his overall complaint, not to YouTube but to Twitter, or his Twitter followers, he lumped in being doxxed with this targeted harassment. And he got YouTube to act. And what YouTube did is they briefly demonetized Crowder. I think he's back to full monetization now. And then they went on a YouTube purge frenzy, like YouTube is wont to do.
I'm seeing that right now.
So literally thousands of YouTube channels that have titles or tags that are any kind of not specifically anti-LGBTQ plus, anti-Semitic, pro-Nazi, but teaching aids and documentaries and things like that had the word Nazi in the title, or had Ford Fisher's page, who's a videographer who fucking goes to big protests and films them and then sells his footage. His footage had white supremacists saying white supremacist shit on it. It also had counter protesters giving their side of what was going on, and it was just put up there as, freelance videography in case people wanted to pay him for the content. This happens all the time when someone goes to a tech monopoly to demand that they censor on their behalf. It rolls back on the people who aren't putting out harmful content, are only reporting outside of the narrative, or have historical information that they're putting in context as to how it relates to what we're looking at today.
That was a lot to take on. Okay, let's break that down. Okay, so Jimmy Dore is in trouble, right?
He's in trouble by that portion of the left that when you do your political compass test and that top half is all authoritarian, you know,
I fall within that too, so let's be careful.
He's in trouble with the authoritarian left.
I've never hidden my authoritarian streak.
And what I mean, let me be clear though. What I mean by that, and what I mean by authoritarian left, what I mean by that is that he's that segment of the left. Those are the people that are crying for the censorship. Those are the people that think the answer to bad speech is to silence speech and not promote good or better or amplify better speech.
Right. I look at it from the perspective, and we had this discussion, and I tried to do some shock therapy, coming in with a radicalized approach. It doesn't change the fact that I honestly believe that both sides have got it wrong. I just don't know a better method. I think censorship is not going to get anyone anywhere. There'll be new outlets created for those people that are censored to proliferate their speech. Also, allowing it to fester and be broadly talked about in the marketplace of ideas is another bad methodology, because they're idiots in the human population and they consistently go the wrong way. You can't guide them because they're over 18. They're allegedly grown-ass adults. So you have to battle two different bad things that are the only options right now. I don't have a third option. I think both sides of this argument are wrong. I just don't have a better way. Because I've seen on Twitter, on MeWe, on you name any social media platform, vile and disgusting things being allowed to proliferate. And then I've seen people try to censor those things. And neither methodology is a solid one. Again, maybe this is my authoritarian streak cracking down because I feel like I know best. But when you have this constant argument, and especially when it centers around the First Amendment too, if you look within the Constitution, the laws and things of that nature, there has been Supreme Court rulings limiting what free speech actually is and what it is not. So for me, I kind of take that method and I apply it. But I don't stand for censorship because it doesn't work. And I don't stand for everybody gets a say because guess what? That doesn't work either. If everybody's got a say, the 1936 Germany was just freaking, it was perfect. That was everything that having a say meant. But then you go look at Saudi Arabia, you look at Iran, you look at any of the Middle East. Depends on the United States with YouTube and things of that nature. Cracking down and creating censorship doesn't help either. So at the end of the day, for me, I can't sit back here and say, oh, those bastards, or oh, those bastards. I could just tell you I don't agree with either side when it comes to this particular deal. There has to be a better methodology in which ideas can be expressed, and we don't have to worry about the sycophants and morons, going lockstep with those idiots, white supremacist, racist, bigots, anti-LGBTQ. And we got to stop having this shock culture that gets offended off of everything that everybody says. These are words. Use your own words to combat the narrative that you find so offensive. Don't try to shut it down. Come up with an argument. And the thing is when you're coming up with that argument, you're in the right. You already know you're on the right side of history when you're combating white supremacy, when you're combating racism, misogyny, all these other things. Come up with your own narrative. It's not that difficult. It's not that complex. YouTube exists. Literally, anybody can do it.
And
So
and
at the
that's
end of the day, like I
and
said,
that's kind of their point, though. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, but the point is that these people, the people that are banging on the door for censorship are now looking at YouTube as something that we've got to get rid of, or at least tightly control who's posting on it and what
that
they're
doesn't help
posting on.
anybody.
Pardon?
That doesn't help anybody. Again, like I said, you and I have gone back and forth on this because you know I don't like either side of the argument. I don't agree with either side of the argument. That's my thing. But at the end of the day, censorship is never going to solve anything.
Yeah, no, my side of the argument is always you call that shit out when you see it. You amplify the people that are also calling it out. You do what you can to spread their message and give them a platform, and you combat it that way. If you have a direct confrontation, please defend yourself. I understand, but the way to combat hate speech, bad speech, angry speech, hurtful speech is not beg a tech monopoly to do the right thing. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And I don't understand why the people who are calling themselves leftists are making the same mistake over and over and over, expecting that YouTube's going to do the right thing, or fucking Twitch, or did any of those platforms are going to do the right thing their way, or only get rid of the people that they don't like for the reasons they don't like them. It's fucking naive and ridiculous.
When you have a left, and this is probably going to be a highly unpopular stance, I don't care. I'm not looking to make friends in the political realm. The left isn't good at much. They're good at outrage culture. That's about what they're good at. They can focus on something for about 10 seconds, be really effective, and then get sidetracked by something else. I've been making social commentary, I guess you can call it, about the left never getting out of the mud, never getting out of neutral, because they can't agree on anything. They're cannibalizing themselves. They're really good at fucking up, because this country is ready for a leftward swing. It's never been more ready since the post-industrial revolution, Gilded Age, for a left swing in this country. And yet you have these prominent, one more time, prominent left-wingers that find new ways to argue with one another. Or they're so hyper-focused on one particular issue that they annex everything else out to other people to speak for them, things of that nature, and that screws everything up. You have a litany of things going on that the left is not good at. They would like to fancy themselves a Che Guevara. They like to fancy themselves for resistors. They like to fancy themselves as the front line on protecting all that is decent and good in this country. But when they can't even agree on the same topic, and they're triggered every 30 seconds, and now the right wing is triggered too, don't get me wrong. You bring up abortion or gun control, and Jesus Christ, watch your heads explode. They're just the biggest pansies. But the problem with the left is they give 10 seconds to every cause, and then they cannibalize themselves. And then it's on to the next thing. You look at the Democratic primary right now. You got Warren, you got Sanders, you got a couple other progressives in the race. Nobody can stay focused on Bernie. They see something shiny and they start arguing for Warren. They start arguing for this one. They start arguing for that one. It's nonsense. The left in this country is a joke. And until they can start focusing and coming together and stop cannibalizing themselves, we're constantly going to get our shit kicked in by the centrists and by the right wingers. I'm just saying. It's a simple fact.
So here's the thing.
Here's offended.
I would, when I'm talking about the left in this situation, I mean the people that are like,
I mean the left.
Consider themselves like to the left of Bernie Sanders, like not necessarily active members of the Democratic Party or even DSA people, but like people who identify with like Antifa or those, that segment, which, that segment, that's what I'm talking about. I'm always hesitant to consider Bernie Sanders any kind of a lefty.
I'm just
I
throwing
really
that out
am.
for
I mean,
everybody to
like,
understand the kind of methodology being applied. That's it. I'm not saying that Sanders is left. I'm saying that this is happening right now. And people can't even focus on which progressive candidate to follow.
well, that's manufactured confusion, and that's my point with this whole Carlos Maza and Steven Crowder thing, and that's the point that Jimmy Dore was trying to make on his show. Turn on my power strip so this doesn't crop out in the middle of the stream. Is that when somebody's making noise like this over this one thing, it is designed to draw your attention away from what's going on. That's not to say that Carlos Maza wasn't targeted and harassed. He was. Mm-hmm. Where it gets super, super complicated is that if you've been subjected to harassment because you're gay, you're going to want the focus of the story to be on that. If you've been censored by a company, or if you've been deplatformed by a company as a result of somebody else advocating for censorship, you're going to want the story to be on the larger picture and not a legitimate distraction, but a distraction all the same.
Right.
That's not to minimize Carlos Maza's personal pain.
Not at all.
Although he sat on this shit for a long time. He waited till Pride Month when it was going to be peak outrage. He did it the day before the company that employs him and his company's union was about to go head to head over contract disputes, and they walked out of work. The harassment's real. The targeted harassment's real. The reaction seems to be calculated, and where that gets dangerous is that automatically turns into, oh, well, all gay people are calculating? No. Oh, well, you hate gay people now? No. You think gay people should get bullied because you don't want to be censored? No. That is deliberately making the conversation about what it's not. And that is exactly what's happening.
That's my thing too. Is like right now, what I just said and how I did a disclaimer was calculated. I think if he sat on top of it and waited for Pride Month, which also let me say Happy Pride Month. That's his prerogative. If that's going to be as you said, the peak time in which outrage about these issues will come to light, then I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. He's picking and choosing his shots. I'm fine with that. If it has to do with contract negotiations and things of that issue, I don't know. I don't know enough about the story. I don't know. I didn't even know this dude existed before you brought him up.
I didn't know he existed until suddenly like thousands of YouTube pages were getting yanked as a result of it.
Right. So the thing at the end of the day is I can't speak to the issue that this gentleman is going through. And I hate the fact that he's been harassed. I mean, there's nothing about that. But I can't give you a definitive, oh, he's right, oh, he's wrong.
Have you been harassed online?
We're all calculating. Every human being is calculating. We're weighing the options. We're trying to figure out how to, make it in this world, etc. So, like I said, if he wanted to wait and hold on to this until Pride Month, when he knew that bringing this story to light would get the most eyeballs on it, get the most outrage, I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. You got to get him where you fit it. But if this was contract negotiations and that's it, that's pretty cynical.
Well, so it's not just that, man. It's that Vox's parent companies Vox's parent company is Comcast.
Right.
NBC, as a subsidiary of Comcast, owns most of Vox.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this is a self-funded, self-produced, or like I'm going to my local fucking we're lucky enough to have a recording studio in this tiny ass town, and that's where I go to do the podcast, and I pay for that.
Right.
It's not like he's doing that. He's not. How did they describe this show on Move Left Idiots? The quintessential Northern California guy just hanging out on his deck in the redwoods. Like that. Carlos Maza's show is not that. And I know what quintessential Northern California guy means. I smoke the pot. Yeah.
What?
I do.
What?
I smoke.
What? I cannot be associated with people who fuck with electric lettuce. I can't do that. Oh shit.
Yeah.
See, now you fucked everything up.
What I'm trying to get at here is that Comcast and NBC have been going after YouTube's advertisers. They were part of the first adpocalypse. We're seeing a resurgence of that now. This is coming right before another pivotal net neutrality vote, which, by the way, Tuesday, June 11th, is that vote. There is an epic live stream for net neutrality that I will be a part of I will be on from 12:15 to 12:30. There were so many people that got invited to be a part of this that they had to shorten the amount of time that everybody can be on, so everybody can be on. Please check that out at some point during your day, regardless of whether or not you're watching me. Please fucking support the stream and support net neutrality.
Make phone calls.
But this purge by YouTube, by Google, because Google owns YouTube, is coming right before this vote. They're going after the advertisers who are putting ads on independent content creators' streams. They're specifically trying to control the flow of information. We did a show about this the other day with the Trust Project. That's Google. That's YouTube. They're a part of that. Comcast is a part of that.
And go back and watch that. There's a lot of pertinent information. If you didn't catch that show, definitely watch that and share that like it's a virus, like it's HPV.
What he means is even if you accidentally get it in you, just get it in you. You're welcome.
We're fucked.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
There goes 25% of the audience. Boop.
No, we did right before that. What I'm saying is that they're using a legitimate grievance, targeted harassment against a member of the LGBTQ
and it's
community.
Real.
And yes, legitimate.
Yeah, it's real.
Thing.
There's no argument about that.
Steven Crowder is a piece of shit, and he makes his money off of fucking harassing marginalized people.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos Maza is one of those people, but he's a great person to hold up while you're holding up Steven Crowder as the bad guy. You can hold up a gay and Mexican content creator as the good guy, and so not automatically rushing to defend his call for censorship, regardless of the underlying consequences, intentional or otherwise, means that you are automatically either someone who hates Mexicans or someone who hates gay people or someone who hates both, or automatically defending Steven Crowder by not agreeing 100% with the method by which Carlos Maza and Vox and their parent companies have gone after this.
Well, I've got an ironic twist on this. During the Tamir Rice Black Lives Matters movement, things of that nature, I was very vocal. I did a lot of articles on it. I spoke out, a lot of shows, things of that nature. And I'm a cis hetero white guy. But my only claim to marginalized status is Jewish heritage. And I'm not really feeling the yoke of oppression being thrown upon me for that. So I used to get a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but I get a certain segment of the population that would basically say, what do you know as a white guy about this problem? What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? So don't talk about it. And I'm one of those types that I don't care what you think. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have an opinion, and I'm going to state that opinion. I want to use my audience to share that opinion about whatever I choose to. Now, that's the mentality we need to have. We're going to get death threats. We're going to get people that disagree with us, that are going to say mean things about us, that are going to bully, that are going to do things. If you put yourself out in public, you have to develop somewhat of a thick skin. Not everybody's going to love everything that you do. God knows that's true. There are times where I put like a shitload of research, I put everything on. It's the perfect broadcast, it's the perfect article, and somehow some moron finds something wrong with it. I don't get deflated over it. I don't lose my shit over it. You know, it's one of those things where I have to assume that any ideas I put forth for public consumption are going to be torn apart at some point. So we have to be cognizant of that as content creators. We can't live in a society in which everything is applauded and loved and celebrated, and it's the greatest things in sliced bread. We have to take on the fact that there's going to be haters, there's going to be people out there that oppose your viewpoint, and we also have to roll with it. You know, develop a thick skin. But at the same token, if it's targeted harassment because you are gay, bisexual, transgendered, any of these things, then you don't develop necessarily thick skin over that, even though I assume most in that community have to some extent because they've had to endure all the bullshit. Like you said, it's hard to come up with a viable solution because, again, censorship isn't going to do it. But
Right.
also allowing these assholes to say what they're saying isn't going to do it either.
And this isn't even about the First Amendment. Like, we have the veneer of a First Amendment more often than not, depending on what you say and who you say it to.
Right.
This is about appealing to a tech monopoly to do the right thing. And why the left keeps thinking that's going to work is fucking beyond me. It never works. First of all, you're the left. If you're advocating for shit like workers deserve the means of production, or healthcare is a right, or worker co-ops are going to be much more effective to us, so we need to form them instead of this fucking pyramid scheme that we have. Like, if you're saying that, YouTube as a company is opposed to that viewpoint. The only reason that you're on their platform is because they let you. They can take you away at any moment they want.
They can demonetize you without you knowing. They can do a lot of different things. That's why I never launched the channel.
Oh, dude, this channel gets fucked with a lot. The views on my interview with Elizabeth Voss are suppressed like a motherfucker. Like, it's only showing 70 right now. I go into the analytics, it's over 300. Any rate, appealing to a capitalist monopoly, to their better angels, to only deplatform or demonetize the speech that you personally don't like, is a stupid fucking approach, and you need to stop doing it. That's whatever else you do, however else you go about it, you need to stop fucking appealing to corporate overlords to do the right thing for you as a leftist.
You know, it's funny
regarding what goes on their platform. It's not going to work out for you.
You have a political scientist whenever we do this show, so that's super awesome. And I can explain why they had that problem, why they have that was interesting. Why they I was gonna let that one be played off. That was great.
That was rad.
In political science, we study a lot of different things. A lot of it is anthropology, psychology, sociology, try to figure out what makes people tick. And in this case, on the left, you ask the question, why are they running to big tech to try to solve this problem, appealing to their better angels and such? The reason why is most of your left, if not all of your true left, believes that government is a tool in which to use to create a basic platform of equality so that people can succeed and fail on their own merits, etc. And when they do fail, there's support for those people that fall through the cracks, etc. So looking to a tech company right now isn't that obtuse. It's not that crazy of a situation. Who's in power in this country? Is it the federal government or is it mega corporations, tech
There's
industry,
no
things of that
daylight.
nature?
There's no daylight.
Right. So the people on the left are looking at the power structure and saying, "We, YouTube and NBC, Comcast, and all these other areas that are involved with the tech industry, you need to do something." They're mishandling and misusing that concept of Big Brother to watch out for these things. They're not able to differentiate that a company isn't in government. They don't give a rat's ass as long as it doesn't affect their bottom line. That's all that matters. It's a product of capitalism. It's a product of the failures of capitalism. You can't even go to the federal government anymore and demand these things. You have to have the left going to fucking YouTube. Anybody paying attention to YouTube knows that they're about useless on every front. So that would be the attraction of the left running to a Big Brother type to demand these things.
I thought it was because this was the part of the authoritarian left that we were talking about earlier, and they see it as, well, if I was in charge of this motherfucker, I would be controlling the speech of a certain element of the population. So if I can just convince YouTube to see where I stand from controlling who gets to say what, when, and how, then maybe they'll go along with me.
It's not just the authoritarian left, it's the left in general. That's why we prescribe to a government that works for the people, that is controlled by the people. Unless you're a communist. And if you're a true communist, you believe in Soviets or smaller councils in regional areas and no centralized government, no borders, no military, etc. Not the communism that exists today. But generally, if you're of the socialist leftist bent, then you believe that government could be used as a tool to enforce equality, to enforce fairness, to enforce protections from corporations, from people who seek to pilfer and manipulate and abuse and throw the masses into slavery for their bottom line.
You're absolutely correct about that, but you also have to remember that that's just the top half of that political compass, and there's an entire bottom half to that is the libertarian side of the political compass, and you've got far right libertarians who are fucking wackadoodles, and you've got far left libertarians like Noam Chomsky and Emma Goldman.
Yeah.
I am slightly to the left of Noam Chomsky on that test. I'm like down a couple of quadrants over here with.
You're a lower left-hand guy, huh?
I'm down there with Emma Goldman and like a stockpile of fucking weapons and like 2 bottles of fucking moonshine and all the fucking TNT that you could fit into a Warner Brothers cartoon. Like that's where I am. That's where, and again, I don't expect everybody to be over in you know that particular quadrant, but I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm like cringing a little bit because I'm like, no, this is not, it's not the entirety of the left, but like it's just government, especially the government that we have, the merger of corporate and bureaucrat, that merger, that corporate fascism, that Mussolini old time fascism, that what they're really talking about when they say they want to go back to the fucking way it was, it's Mussolini. The fucking trains ran on time, you know.
So why don't you just come out and say you're an anarcho-communist?
Yeah, because man, because every system that we've tried has fucking failed. There's no I'm an anarcho-communist because that's not what it is. I advocate fucking collective ascension for humanity and fucking getting away from cash entirely and allowing ourselves to explore inner and outer space together. And that's where I'm at. I'm not like in a fucking, yeah, sure, let's go fucking, you know, try anarcho-communism because I don't trust motherfuckers enough to do that. I don't.
You're kind of speaking from that position when you talk
Yes,
about,
I am. I
not the
certainly
entirety of the left. It's the majority of the left that sees the government as a tool. It's not just the authoritarian side, which I proudly wear as a badge of honor. I'm just above the fucking line, and I'm to the far left.
But yeah,
Definitely
and I guess in terms of the conversation you're at, that's the I am representing the more anarcho-communist side of it. Yeah, absolutely. But it's a
and nothing
like
wrong with that.
heavy on the community, light on the ism.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't speak ill of anarcho-communist other than seeing the name as kind of an oxymoron. But the philosophy, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm not bashing. I'm not like trying, but your position sounds like an anarcho-communist. And so
sure.
From that position, they're not a majority of the left. They're a minority of the left. I mean, Noam Chomsky isn't a majority. He doesn't represent the majority. It's one of those things where a majority of the left would see government as a tool to be used by the people, not to be oppressed by, not to be a tool of corporations and the rich, but to be used by the people. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's not shocking that the left goes running to big tech companies in lieu of a government that is useless.
See, I disagree with that though, because it seems so fucking ludicrous to me to be like, yeah, fucking Google or YouTube or Alphabet, Google and YouTube's parent company, who exists largely as like the billionaire face of the CIA. Fucking why would you go to them with a problem, dude? Like these they don't show up at your house every time you fucking broadcast. Like
right. I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying you asked a question, and from a political science standpoint, I'm answering it. That's it. I'm not giving my position. I'm not saying this is absolutely right. This is what they should do. This is the only way that things will work. What I'm saying is this is a byproduct of capitalism.
Barry Weiss
society so much.
Barry Weiss
they're running to tech companies. They're running to tech companies. How fucked is that? They're not using.
Right. I guess the only reason why is because we don't have enough money to fucking start our own platform.
Right. Right.
And the thought of like taking somebody's startup money for that is raises a red flag in general, because you don't want to be subjected to their agenda. That's why Jimmy Dore's got the fucking sweetest gig in town, because he finally bought his show back from TYT. He doesn't have, and like he wasn't really holding back too much while Cenk Uygur owned his fucking name, but he was. And he's since dropped all pretense that he has to play nice with the Young Turks. And that's fantastic, because they're fucking corporate news on YouTube.
That statement that you just made is horrifying in and of itself. And here's why. Someone can own your name. I had a guy who approached me about branding People of the 99% and branding myself. Now, essentially, that would be making my name a business, and to produce things, not only content, but merch, appearances, things like that. Branding myself, because I have a sizable audience. I have a large group that listen to me. And so I needed to monetize this particular endeavor. And I looked at him and I said, have you watched anything that I've ever done? Read anything that I've ever written? It's not some purist thing that I'm looking at. It's hypocrisy. I fucking hate hypocrisy, and all human beings of all political shades practice it every day. But I try to avoid it at all possible cost. Jimmy Dore, his name that his parents gave him, that he has owned his whole life, was purchased by someone else. And the name that this man was born with, that he lived his entire life up till the moment he sold his name. Folks, how are you a capitalist? How in the holy hell? Here's another thing for WWE fans. I'm not necessarily one. I'm in the closet about it still. I'm not ashamed of it, but at the same time, I don't want to announce me being a WWE fan. There's a guy named Dean Ambrose, who used to be a part of a group. Fuck if I remember what their names are, but they were a pretty big deal. for a long time. He decided to split with the WWE. He's been carrying Dean Ambrose, that name, as a wrestler. That's not his real name, but as a professional wrestler for years. It's been Dean Ambrose. The world knows this guy as Dean Ambrose. So he parted with the WWE, but he didn't leave with his name. He had to fall back to his real name, John something, as he went to another circuit to wrestle. And I think it was New Japan or something of that nature. So this entire career that he built around the name Dean Ambrose, he had to shed that and leave it at the WWE, even though he didn't wrestle in the WWE his entire career. He came over from somewhere else with Dean Ambrose, and he had to shed his name. How fucked are we where we can purchase someone's name, their likeness, their words, their thoughts? How fucked are we?
Well,
That
thanks
shouldn't
to
you should be able to purchase that.
thanks to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, you can also purchase people on YouTube, like
Oh, that's
slave
slavery, isn't
auction
it?
Libya, you know, or you can watch the slave auction at least. Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying there, man. Fucking when I found that shit out like a year and a half ago, that not only did like he have a contract with TYT, but because he was an affiliate, Jink had the rights to his show, and his show
Right.
is his name. That I was like, what the fuck, dude? That's deep. Not only that, but like YouTube takes 35% of all
Right.
of your ad revenue and your super chats and whatnot.
Right.
On top of that, Jink was taking whatever 30%, whatever TYT was taking. So he was fucking carrying the whole shit.
And he was making 35% off his work.
Yeah, and paying Ron and paying Arno and fucking
Stephen O when he made his
and
appearances.
paying Steph too when she fucking retired from teaching to go work full time on that. Like that's fucking hectic, dude. It's nuts. That's the kind of hoops you have to jump through just to. And for him, it was to reach a bigger audience. You know, like
I'm not sure I could ever sell out on that level. I don't mean that in a negative way, because sellout has negative connotations. I get that. I'm not saying Jimmy Dore is a sellout. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not sure I could sell my soul, I guess, when it comes to that for a bigger audience. You either like what I do or you don't. If you don't, fuck off. No one likes you anyways. Really simple.
Yeah, well, but again, this goes back to fucking appealing to the better nature of YouTube and what they're doing with their algorithms. And what they're doing with their algorithms through not just the Trust Foundation that we've covered, but through pressure on advertisers by large fucking corporations like Comcast, like, you know, the upcoming ruling on net neutrality pending. Like there's all these things tie together. They're not isolated, and the manufactured confusion that makes you want to look one way or the other or feel really strongly about this one particular issue and unwilling to look outside of that narrow scope of that issue.
One thing I want to say, and I love Stephen Grumbine. I love him. I've had a lot of personal chats with him. The guy is passionate. He's brilliant. Nothing bad to say about him. One thing that drove me crazy about RP, Real Progressives, is the hyper focus on MMT. I feel like not all solutions come from MMT. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Real Progressives' position. I 100% support it. They got me on board the MMT train. I'm not opposed to it. But the one thing that bothers me is I look at the political terrain and I see a million different issues popping up. And I don't see any one major issue that was going to cover all those. But you got to give groups like RP 1,000% credit for not being attracted to some shiny object over here or some shiny object over here. They have a honed focus and they stay the course. So I mean, that's something you've got to love about groups like that.
And they've got, you know, they've got Savage Joy's show, and that's not an MMT based thing. She interviews people every once in a while. She'll bring up MMT, but I mean, she's told me herself, like, I keep it out of the conversation because
RP covers it.
nobody in elected office or running for office is really willing to have that conversation. And if they are, they bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm
And RP
trying to
covers
get
it enough.
people to see who these people are, not just as candidates, but as, human beings or not, as the case may be. And so she does that for them, and they host
She
her
does a great
shows.
job.
They do all the production for it. They raised her platform quite a bit. And they sent our buddy Pat to the California Democratic Convention. That was not an MMT related thing, So I think they're trying, but yeah, with Steve is an evangelist,
right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing.
No,
wrong
yeah,
I appreciate the hyper focus that RP in general, and we can go back and look at every tweet, every Facebook post, every real progress. I've written a couple articles for them. I'm a huge supporter of RP. I have nothing bad to say about them, but they do have a hyper focus, and I think the left lacks that attempt to focus on issues.
So
I've come out
now, but because of that, it makes Grumbine tune out whenever I start talking about this, because as things are clearly related, he only sees it as a distraction to I'm going to put him,
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes it hard to have a conversation with the guy about anything but.
But that's the thing too, is it's like he's perfect if you want to talk economics and you want to bring about change. I guess preserving capitalism to an extent or what have you. If you want to talk that, then you want him on your show, because MMT is a really, if you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to modern monetary theory, look it up. It's definitely different. It's outside the box, and it kind of calls money what it is. It's just fictional pieces of paper that we can constantly mass produce.
Well, and as it does do that, it also draws attention to the fact that we've been operated. That's the way that our federal government already operates and has since they went off the gold standard.
Right.
So it's not that it's a new economic approach. It's a new realization to a lot of people that guys like Paul Krugman are full of shit. Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman.
Fuck Paul Krugman.
Yeah, they'll give a Nobel Prize out to just about anyone who wants to fucking keep the status quo going.
Well, yeah, President Obama got the peace one right off the bat. And last time I checked, his drone program wasn't very, unless you're talking about after the drone program killed people and there was silence because they were dead.
He got those for ostensibly for drawing down the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, which
still going on.
Yeah. Come September, the war or October,
20 years,
the war in Afghanistan will be old enough to join the army and go fight in the war in Afghanistan.
Yeah. But I don't want to dive into MMT. That's not the topic of conversation. There's so many other great groups that do that, and RP being one of them.
No, and I will say this real quick, though. When I had Steve Grumbine on the podcast, I asked him why advocate this if it's only going to save capitalism. That's not necessarily anything that I'm into.
Right.
And he said that John Michael Lardis had done a thorough series on using MMT and what was it, like, I think it might have been Trotsky's approach to going from a capitalist system to a more communist system, monetary system, and using MMT. So I guess that theory is out there. He said it to me back in
a long conversation. He and I had a long conversation when RP and I talked back and forth when we first started talking. And I said, I'm a Marxist. How can I get behind something that's going to allegedly save capitalism? And he was very on point, was able to have that discussion. And I give him 1,000% credit because it was a solid conversation. But at the end of the day, I guess if we're going to talk incrementalism, using MMT with left, socialist, communist, whatever the fuck you want to call it, as a partnership, I think there's a viability to it. But at the end of the day, MMT standing by itself as the lone savior of capitalism, I never have been able to sign off on that in its entirety.
Well, look, man, if we're going to have a free-floating fiat currency, if we're going to have fucking imaginary money, that regardless of what you think about the Fed, they're the people that fucking type in the numbers and allocate the funds to whatever bank accounts that then become fucking legal spending tender.
Right.
Like, if we're going to do that, if we're going to just admit out the gate that, like fucking Dick Cheney said 15 years ago, deficits don't matter. If we're going to admit that, if that's going to be our governing philosophy, let's fucking improve the situation of the 80% of the country that can't fucking afford $1,000 emergency, you know, and that's when everybody's fucking heads explode. It's the people that can afford that $1,000 emergency that are going to do everything possible to preserve the system that allowed them their comfortability.
I don't know. There's no disagreement. That's what we're battling. As I use the term status quo a lot. I use that as the catch-all for what we're fighting, because at the end of the day, we are literally trying to change the way humanity functions. It's not just we're trying to make equal rights happen. We're not just trying to revamp the criminal justice system. We're not trying to just revamp the economy. We're not trying to revamp this, revamp. We are trying to destroy a system that has put people in the caste system as an undesirable. It's left the middle class, the working class, and the poor without options. It's destroyed our environment. There's a multitude of things that have been covered a million times by a million different people on what's wrong. We are trying to destroy that, the status quo. And we're trying to bring forward an idea and a movement and thoughts and everything else on how to change, alter, and fix what humanity has so horribly broken. And so we're going to meet resistance from all those types. We're going to meet resistance from the rich, from corporations, from the elites, from Washington, from state capitals. We're going to face that. And not to be offensive, but from those in the over 50 club. People who have lived their lives under one system, only understand one system, and are highly resistant to change to that system. Now, not all 50-year-olds, I'm not generalizing, but a sizable portion of the 50-plus crowd, all they know is one type of system. So we've met resistance from them. Not all, but a sizable portion. We're going to meet resistance no matter what we do. It's how we overcome that resistance, how we share information. That goes back to the net neutrality vote. That goes back to information flow, how we go and attack that issue. It's going to make or break whether we can destroy the system or if it's like a Matrix thing where you just reboot it. Same crap happens again. Everybody thinks they have a victory. Really, it's just the status quo continuation. That at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, or at least I hope we're trying
to do. To that point, Robert Scheer, who edits Truthdig, you know Bob Scheer is, one of the good guys. Of course, Facebook does that. All right, where's the thing? I just had it up. At any rate, Robert Scheer on Truthdig hosts a like half-hour show called Sheer Intelligence. He had on Joel Whitney, who wrote a book called Finks. And are you gonna let me? No, you're not. God damn it, man. Fuck beans. Are you in front of your? Hey, maybe this will. Finks: How the CIA Tricked the World's Best Writers. And it explores how the CIA influenced acclaimed writers and publications during the Cold War to produce subtly anti-communist material. This breaks down, the book does, the interview is fairly, it's a half an hour. They cover some great stuff in there. I listened to it this morning. but the book itself, in a larger context, presents the progression of media infiltration and influence by intelligence agencies from Operation Chaos during the early days of the CIA through Operation Mockingbird into what we have today.
I got about 10 minutes.
Okay, awesome. I'll put the Truth Dig article in the show notes after the fact.
Go look at it. Go look at it.
It's wild. It gives the full text of the interview if you don't want to listen to the shit. At any rate, there's also,
I would suggest that for nuance, for context, definitely give it a listen if you have the time.
And I bring that up to say that, to kind of like tie into what you were saying and what we try to do and how we try to produce the information, present the information, put it out in a fucking in a way that, you know, we've done our fucking homework before. These are the facts as we can best find them. We're not putting out a fucking clearly not scripted piece of propaganda. It's,
if you at home realize just how unscripted this is and how much this is just back and forth, you'd be amazed. You want to hear our pre-production meeting? Here's our pre-production meeting. What do you want to talk about? A, B, and C. What do you want to talk about? A, B, and C. Can we fit it in an hour? Maybe. Let's go. That's our pre-production meeting.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I at least, you know, read the source material and shit like that as often as possible. But yeah, there's not a teleprompter in front of me. That's for fucking sure. But my point to all that is there's a well-documented, well-publicized history of intelligence agency manipulation through decades worth of media outlets, and these are, it mentions in the article, in the interview, and in the book that these are, you know, the cream of society. This is the Columbia School of Journalism. This is, you know, the Yale Review. This is the
hold on 1 second. Keep going.
Yeah. These are the journalists that get all of the best gigs at all of the establishment paper, and whether or not they know they're directly working for the intelligence agency, according to Joel Whitney, the author, how the CIA tricked writers was an incorrect title, but it's the one that he got away with. Because most of them at some point in their career are aware of the fact that what they're doing is presenting specifically the intelligence community's point of view on these particular issues. So when independent outlets and really independent outlets come out with information that runs counter to that, the first reaction by normal people is to disbelieve it entirely. You know, I don't even watch YouTube. Okay, well, if you're 50 plus, you know, you may not. But you're right, they have lived in that system and that continuous propaganda their entire existence. Like at no point did Russia stop being the bad guy. That's right. Evident more so now than ever since Glasnost. It's fucking ridiculous how quickly people were just so willing to, even to this day, like actually red bait and red smear. Like they talk about the Russia in terms of Russia and the Soviet Union.
And let's be 100% clear on this too. Russia is not communist. It's not socialist. It's an oligarchy. It is a hyper-capitalist, almost fascist state. So for us to have this animosity towards socialists, I mean, there are much more Well, they're not even much more. They're a step in front of us when it comes to capitalism and how badly it's going to go. They're our future in a year, essentially. So let's not make the mistake that this is the old capitalist versus socialist argument. This is the United States animosity toward Eurasia.
Let's also not pretend like the main difference between Russian oligarchs and American oligarchs comes down to tracksuits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like that's essentially it. Tracksuits or tailored suits. That's the biggest fucking difference.
And I also wanted to be noted, I'm not the biggest Russia fan, but I have legitimate reasons why I'm not a fan of Russia today. If you want to go after the LGBTQ community, going after journalists that oppose the government's message, going after political dissidents, that's the reason I'm anti-Russian, not because of what Rachel Maddow told me or what Hillary Clinton told me. I have legitimate things that have been documented for the last 15 years about attacks on the LGBTQ plus community, journalists, and political dissidents. That's enough to make anyone who has a right mind to be anti-Russian, but not for the trumped up bullshit that they have put out in the last 2-3 years. On that note, I've got to get the hell out of here.
Okay, cool. We have we have a dinner thing we're supposed to go do here soon too. So that works.
2 p.m.
You can ring off whenever you want. I'm gonna run down a couple announcements. As always, Jay, thank you very much. You can find Jason on Twitter, Paranquerum. You ask him how to spell that. I'll put it in the show notes.
People of the 99% on Facebook and on Instagram, I do nudes, tasteful nudes. So if you want to go to the Jason Carney, they're tasteful, mind you. That would be great on Instagram too. Hop on there.
Tasteful
I'm out of
nudes,
here, kids.
Tasteful Nudes with Jason is going to be our first call-in show, by the way.
That's right. Talk to you later.
All right, cheers, man. Yeah, that's about it for me. Real quick, again, this coming Tuesday, June 11th, is the day of epic live streaming for net neutrality. It starts at, well, I think like 6 a.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Eastern time, and goes to 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I will be on noon 15 to noon 30 Pacific. I know for a goddamn fact that Ron Placone will be on there because he's the guy who brought me aboard. I don't know who else is going to be on. I imagine it's going to be fucking epic. I will also, I think, be on Rogueways on Tuesday evening at 5, and if I can confirm that, I will tell you more about it. I have upcoming podcasts with Whitney Webb from Minpress News and Robbie Martin from Media Roots Radio with Abby Martin, and A Very Heavy Agenda is his show. And I will let you know more about that as they are coming up. Thank you for hanging out very fucking much. My name is Steve Boykin, and this has been Slow News Day, and good luck to us all.